Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown and welcome to Caregiver Support Live. We take your questions about your caregiving challenges and do our best to offer insights, share resources, and help you feel like, yes, I can do this. My co-host Jennifer Ritchie is off today, so we look forward to connecting with her next month. One of our viewers wrote in a question, so that's our question for today. And here's what our viewer wrote. I'm writing on behalf of a friend, and here's the situation. My friend is currently in the process of locating another long-term care placement for her brother, who has severe mental health challenges and has struggled with them for decades. Since obtaining an official diagnosis about a year ago, they've been able to place him because now he qualifies for assistance, but each time the placement has been short-lived. Inevitably, some crisis ensues, he becomes agitated or has a meltdown, and the staff has difficulty handling the situation. It's as if they discover in these moments of outbursts that they are ill-equipped to meet his needs, even though during the intake/interview process, they've agreed that they can take him. So he ends up leaving or is hospitalized for a few days. Unfortunately, each time he's admitted to the hospital, he can only be kept for so long. And then the pressure to release him and the search for another place frantically resumes. He is unable to be cared for by the family due to the unpredictability of his behavior and aggression. His mother is in her 80s and a widow. Although she has been his main caregiver for some time, they used to live together. My friend is one of her brother's conservators, but lives with her husband, and both have their own health challenges and limitations that prevent her brother from living with them. They are at their wits' end as they keep trying to locate a permanent, safe, and healthy environment, preferably in the state where they live, where he can receive 24-hour care. They have been faithfully praying for a solution, believing that there will be some place for him. Along the journey, they've been blessed with intermittent help from a close friend, her brother's other conservator, financial support, and short-term stays in residential homes and facilities. They are grateful for what they've received so far. However, my friend's brother has been hopping from one place to the next, which has proven to be very disorienting, not settling, and it's getting harder for him to adapt with each move. They need help. Okay, so let's break this out into two situations and think through what could be possible solutions for each. Let's talk through what can happen during a hospitalization, and then we'll talk out if he is no longer in the hospital, but they're still seeking long-term care placement. Okay, so let's start with during a hospitalization. I would suggest the family immediately ask to speak to a patient advocate that is employed within the hospital. So immediately when he is discharged from a facility and admitted to a hospital, connect with a patient advocate and let the patient advocate know, here's what's been happening. We find placement, the staff feels uncomfortable, scared, overwhelmed, whatever it might be. We end up back in the hospital. We struggle to find placement, and what we're looking for is permanent placement. Let the patient advocate know that. In addition, let the patient advocate know that there must be a care plan created during the brother's hospitalization, so the staff at a facility has a protocol to manage challenging behaviors that they encounter. So the hospital staff and the brother's doctor should be working on a care plan to manage any challenging behaviors that happen after he moves into a facility. That should be one of the first goals during the hospitalization, a protocol that's established. The doctor will have good ideas about what to do when challenging behaviors arrive. While that's happening in the hospital, and the hospital is starting to refer the family to possible placement, whenever there is a possibility of a placement, the family should not only ask to speak to the intake department, the admissions department, but also the facility's director of nursing. During those conversations with the director of nursing, the family should say, hey, we're working on a care plan, a protocol to manage challenging behaviors. Here's what happened. Here's what we want going forward. We want a care plan that not only helps our brother, but ensures your staff has what they need to manage any challenging behavior. The admissions department will probably say, sure, we can manage. It's the nursing staff that you want to make sure they can manage, because they're going to make the calls if something happens and they feel like, oh, we can't do this. And then there's a transfer to the hospital. So you'd want to talk to the director of nursing of any facility that you consider moving your brother to. And you'd want the director of nursing to know that you're working on a protocol. You could also ask the director of nursing, how have you managed past behaviors that are challenging for staff? Hopefully, these two conversations, patient advocate plus the care plan for any challenging behaviors, plus talking to the director of nursing, will help. You want to make sure the nursing staff is fully aware. Again, the admissions department will say, oh, sure, it's the nursing staff you want to talk to. In addition, at time of discharge from hospital to a facility, you would just want to make sure that on the day of admission, the family is present and meeting the staff, establishing a relationship with the staff, and working with the director of nursing to ensure that the staff is aware of the care plan. I was getting them all mixed up. The care plan to manage challenging behaviors. If the family lives nearby, and I know this is the challenge because sometimes it's a facility that isn't nearby, but it's a facility that is working with the family. If the facility is nearby, it would be helpful for the family to visit as often as possible. Establish relationships with the staff, check in with the director of nursing. How is everything going? What kind of support can we provide for you? What kind of information do you need from us? If there's a distance and it's hard to visit every day, call every day. How is everything? Do you have everything that you need? Just want to check in. It could be that as part of the care plan, and this is up to the family, so I'm just suggesting it. Perhaps the family is notified first before there's a call to 911. And perhaps the family can help with some kind of intervention, either in person by visiting or a phone call with the brother. It's important to establish a relationship with the staff, because when the staff knows the family, they might feel more comfortable working through the challenges. If the family hasn't already done so, they'd also want to start documenting what are the challenging behaviors. When do they happen? Is it a particular time of day? Is it with a particular interaction? Is it during some kind of activity of daily living, like bathing or showering or eating? Is it with another resident when the challenging behaviors seem to happen? Is it with a staff member? So you want to document what the triggers are, because that will help you then modify, revise, add to, tweak the care plan to manage the challenging behaviors. In facilities, they typically have a meeting at time of admission and then quarterly care plan meetings. As a family, you'd want to attend anytime there's a meeting to discuss your brother's care. If you can't attend in person, it's okay. You can call in. They can do a conference call with you. Again, it's establishing that relationship with the staff. It is so hard in these situations because you're relying on so many people to work with you, and it can be hard to get that buy-in from staff. Facilities are short-staffed. Facilities might have staff that might not have the appropriate training. And that's hard. That's hard. So it's really looking to establish the relationship with the staff members at the facility, starting with the director of nursing, the charge nurses, and for instance, the certified nursing assistants. Checking in regularly, visiting as often as possible, documenting the triggers, updating the care plan. It can be helpful for the staff to know that you're all in on ensuring that this is a successful stay for your brother and your staff and their staff. If your brother isn't currently hospitalized, but you're looking for placement, you could check with the long-term care ombudsman in your community. The long-term care ombudsman is also going to be a good resource for you for placement when your brother is in a facility. If you are struggling, if you're having issues, if you're trying to figure out how to work effectively with the staff, contact the long-term care ombudsman. And contact that ombudsman for help with placement. They might not be able to do a lot for you, but it's worth reaching out to say, this is what has happened, this is where we are, we need help. The long-term care ombudsman is available to everyone within a state. And typically, the long-term care ombudsman might work out of a long-term an area agency on aging. You can search for the area agency on aging in your area by going to benefitscheckup.org. So again, it's benefitscheckup.org. And you can search by zip code, and you can search by your brother's zip code to find the area agency on aging in his community to connect with the long-term care ombudsman. That's someone that can help perhaps with placement and then after placement. I would also suggest contacting the local chapter of the National Association of Mental Illness, NAMI. They have local chapters, and that's organization staff can be helpful as you're trying to figure out, how do we do this? What do we do? Oh, who can help us? And let me give you the website. So it's National Alliance on Mental Illness. And the website is NAMI, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, M as in Mary, I.org. NAMI.org. You also can reach out to his doctor while you're looking for long-term care placement. And again, just as you're doing in the hospital, you can ask the doctor for a treatment plan to manage challenging behaviors. You're looking for placement. You can tell the doctor, we need a care plan so that the brother can stay in a facility once you find a facility. You're trying to avoid a discharge to the hospital or readmission to a different facility. I would also say reach out to all of your representatives, your local representatives, wherever you live. It's your mayor, or for instance, in the city of Chicago, we have aldermen. So depending on where you live, you could reach out to your very local representative and let them know what's going on. You could also reach out to the representative for where your brother is living if you are living in different counties or districts. So your local representatives plus your state representatives. So within your state, who is your congressperson, who is representing you at the state level. And again, it could be that you have a different representative than your brother. You want to reach out to both. Let them know this is what's happening. This is our struggle. These are our challenges. What can you do to help us? And then you can also reach out to your national representatives who represents you in Congress and in the Senate. And again, you're reaching out to say, here's our challenge. What can you do to help us? Reach out to all those representatives, local, state, national. Okay, I think those are my suggestions for you. So we talked about what to do during the hospitalization, really get that care plan, talk to the director of nursing, make sure everybody's on board, establish relationships with all the staff members. And then if you're in the community looking for placement and you're struggling, reach out to the long-term care ombudsman in your state, reach out to your representatives, local, national, and state, and reach out to NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Reach out to your local chapter and ask for help and support. Okay, keep us posted on that. It's so challenging in these situations. And I just fear that the challenges are going to be harder as we move forward. And that's why it's helpful to establish these relationships within your community and within organizations like NAMI, so they can be helpful for you as you work through this. And I think it's important to thank you for what you're doing as well. Oh, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of worry. It's a lot of worry. It's a lot of worry. And it can be easy to just kind of throw your hands up and say, we give up. And it's amazing that you are as tenacious and diligent and committed to really finding the right fit for your brother as you are. And step by step, you're getting closer. You're getting closer. Your commitment to finding the right solution, the right facility is possible, and you're making it a possibility. And I think it's important to thank you for that. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard, especially because you have other worries. You're worried about your mom. You and your husband are worried about each other. And then you're certainly worried about your brother. Okay, please keep us posted on how you're doing. Today, we're only going to tackle one question. But for those who are joining us live, if you have any other thoughts about what we just talked about in terms of managing this situation where you're trying to find long-term care placement for a family member with mental illness, please feel free to share any insights in the chat or ask any follow-up questions that you might have about what we just talked about. And as always, thanks to those who join us live. It's always good to have support during our Caregiver Support Live question and answer conversation. Okay, we were just going to do one question today. So if those who are joining us live feel, okay, we do have a follow-up question. What happens when someone is leery of government support? Meaning, this is a great question, and I just want to ask clarification, meaning leery of reaching out to local representatives. I just want to make sure. Okay, if that does not feel like, oh my gosh, we can trust our local representatives, and I get that. It could be that we are living in interesting times where, depending on where you live, you might feel more comfortable reaching out for support. If you are living in an area where you feel like, I'm not sure our national representatives really are representing our best interest, then you can decide who is representing our best interest and look for local advocacy organizations. It could be nonprofits like United Way, could reach out to them instead if you're uncomfortable with reaching out to your national or local or state representatives. And you could look to other nonprofits that support and serve those living with a mental illness. And again, NAMI is your first go-to. Look for the local chapter. And when you're reaching out to NAMI too, you could also ask for insights on whether or not it's helpful to reach out to government officials. If there's been any help or support from the government officials around this issue, that might be helpful. So reach out to nonprofits in your community, including NAMI, could look to United Way and see what help and support they could offer. You also could go through a website called findhelp.org. All programs and services listed on that website are free or low cost. So you have to have a program that's free or low cost in order to be listed on that website. So it's findhelp.org, find help, one word. And you could search for programs and services through your zip code or your family member's zip code and see what comes up. You might find some nonprofits that you just weren't aware existed, and that might be a way to really solidify more support. Really what we're talking about is finding support for you as the family caregiver and your caree who is diagnosed with a mental illness. That's what we're trying to do. It is such a lonely, isolating experience to be in a caregiving situation and in a caregiving situation for someone with a mental health diagnosis. And that's really what we're looking at today is what's the support for you and what's the support for your brother. And if you feel like government officials aren't the way to go, then pivot to nonprofits. And again, findhelp.org might connect you to an organization that you just weren't aware of. And again, search with your zip code and search with your brother's zip code. Thank you for that question. That was a great question. That was a great question. Curious if you have anything else that you're thinking of as we're working through this situation. Okay. I think we're okay. So again, what if someone doesn't trust someone coming into the house to help? That's a huge one. That's a huge one. And in those circumstances, I suggest starting small, meaning start having help come into the house for a little bit of time while you're there with your caree. I get this not trusting. It just feels very scary and for good reason. So I think it's good to start small with having someone you've hired or someone who is available through a program and service and now is going to start to help come in for small increments while you're still in the house. So that could be scheduling something at really odd hours, which might be hard. It could be evenings or weekends, which could be hard, or it could be that if you're working, it's earlier in the morning and maybe you take an hour of PTO. You're just going to take an hour of PTO, paid time off just to be there and start working through that comfort level. And it's really comfort level for you and your caree because you're both going to be nervous about this. So you want to get used to having someone come in. You want to make sure it's someone that you trust. In addition, you also want to make sure that there is no temptation in the house. You want to make sure that everything, money, checkbooks, credit cards are all locked away, safe somewhere else. You just don't want to offer temptation. You want to be practical about this. And then as you get comfortable, and you also want to be comfortable with training someone who's coming in to help in the way that's right for your caree and for you. So you're going to start with short amount of time, training, establishing the relationship between, let's say it's a home health aide and your caree, and then having a conversation with your caree afterwards. What did you like? What do you want to change? What do you want to improve? It's a conversation. It's not a, you have to accept help. It is a, we're walking into this situation where we're both going to get some help. It's help for the family caregiver. It's help for the caree. And then after the help leaves, have a conversation with your caree. Again, what did you like? What do you want to change? What can we do differently? When you have conversations like that and you hear feedback, then you have an opportunity to improve the experience. You're looking for the experience to be better for your caree. Then when you both feel comfortable with a little bit of time, add in more time. Now, here's the challenge if you are hiring a home health aide. Most agencies require a 4-hour minimum, and that's the hard part. It also could be through a program and service. It is a certain amount of time. So that's the challenge, working through what are the requirements for a home care agency or a program to offer the help. You might have to do a little bit of juggling around this. So for instance, if it's help through a home care agency and the only way you can get around this is to use 4 hours of help, think through 4 hours of help and how you could take 4 hours off from work, for instance, to be available during that 4 hours. If you have to use 4 hours of help, you also could think through, I'll be there for the first 4 hours. The first time a home health aide comes, I'm going to stay. Have that conversation afterwards with your caree. What worked, what didn't. And then the next time, leave for a few minutes just to make sure that they're getting comfortable being on their own. And then increase the amount of time that you're gone. I think we often just start with a lot of help immediately without thinking through what's the transition, because help is a change. It's a change for the family caregiver and it's a change for the caree. And you want to think through what's the process that we can create so everybody feels comfortable with this. A good home care agency also will help you with this transition. You can let the agency know, my caree is very nervous about having help in the house. How can you help us with this transition? I want it to be a good experience for my caree. We're nervous. What typically do you do in terms of supporting the family and my caree around these new services? And a good home care agency is going to be able to help you with that transition. And if they don't have any kind of support for that, then that's not the agency for you. Okay, thank you for that question. And for the question in the chat room, please keep us posted on that. These are tough situations. I wish it would just be like, oh, everything is fine. It's not. It's not. And I guess ultimately what we have to do is give ourselves permission to have a process of transition and to be compassionate with ourselves during this process of transition. Okay, I'm going to close this for today. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll continue to follow up on these 2 questions because they're great questions. And this is the first of years, so I wish you a happy new year. And if you'd like to join us live, you can register to join us through caringourway.com, which is our community. And you can also reach out to us for support and to ask us questions. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.